Assalamualaikum
warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Yeah, you're now listening to Iiumfm Slot Teo Talk with
Amna, DJ Amna,
and DJ Sarrah. And yeah, actually there are a few unavoidable reasons that we had to change the time to 8 to 9. Luckily, from 5 to 6.
Yes.
So as you guys can see, we have already spread the posters and whatnot. So now I bet you guys know we're with siapa?
Our guest. Our guest is Sarrah.
Yeah. Sarrah Salihan. Sarrah. Okay, so Sarrah Salihan ni, she's actually a debater from Seri Putri. And she made I can't say it's a very impactful remark kan pasal boys and girls, and now she's also active in
writing.
She actually came up with a book kan.
Sunflowers from Sarrah.
Oh tu dia, sorry dia mak merdu. Dia macam jawab. Okay, hi Sarrah.
Hi. I'm so excited to be here.
Ya Allah. Okay, the same goes to us. Kita buat excited macam, oh my god, macam mana kita orang nak Sarrah kot.
Oh my god, I'm actually nicer in real life. I'm not kidding.
Oh my god, yeah. Like, kalau you on stage, it's like a different person. But then bila you turun je macam, let's have a hug instead of a shake kan. Macam okay. Okay, so kita nak tahu lah guys kita ni Sarrah kan. So how the journey of Sarrah Salihan started?
Oh wow,
okay.
So for debate wise, I'd say I started when I was 13 years old in SSP, and it all happened accidentally, I would say. Sebab at first I wasn't someone who wanted to join debate. I was just someone who was in a totally new environment in Sri Putri, baru belajar pakai tudung, those things, you know.
I see.
So I wasn't keen on wanting to speak out or wanting a platform to let my voice be heard. I knew not of those things. I joined band mula-mula, wind orchestra, but then I got bored because all I did was kena marah dengan senior, and then every evening all I did was blow into instruments. So I got a little bored. Maybe it wasn't just for it. That activity wasn't for me, you know. So and then one of my my seniors, they suggested I join debate because they said I could speak for some reason, just because I introduced myself. So I went, oh, okay, I'll try. So I quit band, I joined debate, and from the first session of that training, I was starstruck. I was like, man, I think this was made for me, because like, although we didn't have a prominent figure of a senior who was really good at debating, who everyone knew their name, but the way in which the discussions were held, how the teachers were moderating us, they were talking about issues like abortion and prostitution, things that a 13-year-old never begin to, you know, think or imagine to be important issues. So I was there and I'm like, wow, we are really talking about the world. And I got super interested, and I stayed a little longer, and then 2 weeks after joining debate, I joined my first competition, and I completely fell in love with the community because everyone was so open, they were all so friendly, but then when they're debating, they're serious about it, you know. They really want to make a change, or none of them took for granted the opportunity to be able to talk in public and voice out your opinion. So I learned so many things through debate. But then the thing is, through my 5 years, I think I never properly sat down and begin to think, man, I'm debating because this is an amazing opportunity. I get to speak out, I get to voice out my opinions. I shouldn't take this for granted. For 5 whole years, I think the only reason I debated was because I wanted to win. I wanted to be top 10 best speaker. I wanted to be overall best speaker. I wanted more trophies. So that's why I didn't feel fulfilled. I constantly felt not enough, and I'm like, man, I'll never be a good enough debater. Maybe this isn't just for me. Maybe I like it, but I'm not good enough, you know. Until last year, during the first tournament, my first championship as a debater, I thought to myself, this is my last tournament as a high school debater, and I don't want to take it for granted. I want to debate because I like to do this, because I'm passionate about it, because it's my hobby, not because, you know, it's just another club, not because I want to collect another trophy. So I got my intentions, my nawaitu, my niyat correct. I straightened out everything, and I'm like, I'm gonna have a good time. And I did. I had an amazing time. I had the best of teammates, the bestest of friends at my tournament. And tengok-tengok menang. So I'm like, whoa, okay, that's all I had to do. I just had to debate for the right reasons, you know, which is a really important lesson that I learned the hard way. But I'm glad I learned it the hard way because at least it's permanent now. So I guess that was the 5-year journey of trying to win something. It was just, you know, going back to my roots and be like, no, I cannot take this activity for granted.
So the phrase of winning something is actually referring going back to your roots because it's like you know the Arabic words is tajdid niyat, which means you renew your no it's not an Arabic lesson or whatnot, but like I actually felt that too. Because we actually need to do something because we love it, not because we wanted to win something. Right. Alright, so our topic today is communication skills and also finding ideas one-on-one with Sarrah Salihan. So you guys, from what you've heard, Sarrah Salihan, like dia punya fluency and proficiency of speaking like so smooth kan. Macam you can just like into my DMs. So macam so like for people like us, we are communication students. However, some of us, and even for myself, macam I find it hard to like speak. So macam, is there any important thing, like any important thing or tip for us to speak like fluently, like macam smoothly?
For me, I think my tip has to go around experience as well. And macam I feel like for you to get what you want or to achieve the goal that you are looking forward to, you first have to set your heart in and prepare to sacrifice a lot. So being a debater back in school, what I knew I was sacrificing was my time with studies, which was very, very important since I was in a boarding school that really prioritized academics over co-curricular and everything else. So, you know, me sacrificing a bit of my study time just to pursue debate was something that I knew I was making. And, you know, some people might call it a mistake, but for me, I thought that was a fair trade-off, you know, because I feel like the main part about being able to speak fluently is for you to invest a lot of time in listening to other people speak fluently. So I think through my 5 years of debating, I have went through countless of tournaments. I've watched tons of debate videos. I've been in, you know, I'd say hundreds of debate rooms. I've listened to a lot of debates. And from listening to all of these people deliver their ideas, which is like concentrated in a 7-minute speech, I think that's where I learned a lot to sort of mirror that talent of theirs.
I see.
So, you know, I feel like it is something that you learn through listening as well. I'm like audio, I'm very keen on listening instead of learning through my hands, movements, stuff like that. So how I practiced was I simply listened to a lot of debate videos or even TED Talks in general. I just listened to a lot of people talking. So at school, we couldn't bring our phones, we couldn't bring much of gadgets, but we could bring MP3 and also iPod Nanos. So you know how we all have songs and stuff like that? I had 2 iPods, one for songs and the other one is for debates, podcasts. I even have Taskiras in there. You name it. I was really keen on listening to people speak because I noticed everyone had a different style of speaking, you know? And when you listen to people speak, you're not trying to copy their style. You're just trying to copy their fluency and try to bring out your own identity, which is very, very important when it comes to, you know, being able to deliver a fluent speech, a well-articulated speech. It's very important that you know you're doing that speech because you want to touch hearts and change lives, or you want to spark ideas and discussions. So the way in which you must do that is for you to put your heart in your speech. So that's what I noticed many of these debaters and speakers, they do, you know? They really talk, or they try to put their heart, try to have empathy, sympathy, emotions within their speech, which is very, very important. So whenever you're given a topic to talk about, the first thing that you must think of is who exactly is going to be most affected by this topic. For example, when we had discussions on prostitution or abortion, we have to note that the person that is mostly affected, the most vulnerable stakeholder would be the women who are directly involved in that very context, right? So trying to put yourselves in their shoes was like an emotional experience for me, which I believe many of us should practice, not only when we're about to deliver speeches, but when we're about to enter discussions. You know, be it on Twitter, Facebook, we have to have the heart to understand that not everybody lives the same lives as we do.
Yeah.
So, you know, trying to give a good speech all lies in how much heart you have in that topic as well. So, you know, the first tip is to invest your time, listen to people, and also practice a lot. Okay, what I learned a lot from was I used to record myself debate and I listened to those recordings back. I messed up a lot. I think we all do.
God, yes,
You know, no matter who you are, you can be Tun Mahathir, you can be YB Syed Saddiq, no matter who you are, you will mess up here and there. But I think you noticing where you make those mistakes and you learning from your mistakes is the thing that's going to teach you the most. Okay, so you have to invest your time in, you know, just training, practicing, making mistakes, because the more mistakes you make, the more you actually learn. So this is something that I think lots of us are afraid to go for. We're constantly like, am I going to say the right thing? Am I going to do this right? Who cares? You know, no, you can never be proud or fulfilled with yourself if you're constantly doubting yourself. It's okay to make mistakes, you know, as long as you understand that it's okay to make those mistakes, as long as you learn from them. Instead of you're just out there and you're cocky and you think you're the only one who's right, you have to be prepared to learn. Okay, and I think the experience involved tons of embarrassment as well. I did tons of mistakes in front of amazing debaters who were training me, who were educating me. So, you know, to make those mistakes, like not being able to pronounce receipt properly, not knowing what many prostitutes actually go through in the US, those things, they're actually quite embarrassing mistakes, you know? But I think because I made those mistakes in the past, I'm not going to make them any longer now. So invest your time in training, and more importantly, you also have to invest your time in finding the right heart to deliver that speech of yours. Okay, because a speech isn't only something someone does in the parliament or someone does in front of class. A speech goes like our daily lives as well, the way we interact with people, we engage with them. So all of that is actually considered practice and training as well. So if you can speak well to your friends, your peers, your teachers, your lecturers, so on and so forth, I think you are able to apply it whenever you're speaking in public as well. Because we fail to realize the people who are listening to us speak are our daily friends. They have mothers, they have fathers, they have friends, they have cousins, so on and so forth, right? So they're just daily people like you and I.
Normal beings.
So the best way for you to approach them isn't for you to become, you know, an authoritative figure. You have to have a strong voice for them to listen to you and stuff like that. You only have to have the right heart for you to approach them in the right way. So whenever it's about finding ideas, I think firstly, get emotional. Get emotional, and then you do your research so that you know where exactly the parts of your speech that you're about to craft. Who can you talk about? What are the implications, the backgrounds, history, the dates that you want to put inside your speech, and everything else will happen once you have the emotion that can attach yourself to the speech. Because you're not just speaking for nobody to hear, you're speaking for people to hear. So
Wow, that's a lot. Actually. I mean, that's a lot of important things and a lot of things that I just learned because actually, Sarrah, unlike other speakers, Sarrah Salihan is actually focusing on having the heart. So it's new to me. Like, finding the heart. Like, macam if you have the heart and then you boleh buat all what you want to do. Like when you have the emotional, like Sarrah mentioned, macam. We will just akan terus keep on finding things that actually that apa yang kita nak point out. Okay. So I nak tanya lagi actually. Tanya. So you were talking about the finding heart and just just finding the right ideas and thing. But how about the stage fright, like the emotions going inside before you speaking, like anxious and like the tension and pressure. How do you manage that?
In public lah.
Oh,
Yes.
okay, I see. I would divide this answer into two. The first is the technicality of it. So technicality is basically what you physically do to prepare yourself before speaking in public. Number one, make sure you make a draft of your speech. Like, I think even for the bestest of speakers, they cannot just go out without having a proper draft of what they are going to speak out. You know, they cannot just do things impromptu and it becomes perfect. You have to put in some effort. You can do this draft in your head or on a paper, but I would advise on paper if you're like a beginner, if you're nervous, you know, just put it on paper, because even to this day, that's what many of my friends and myself do, and a lot of debaters I look up to, they do that as well. It just really helps you visualize the things you're going to say better. And writing things down, I feel like the physical action of it lessens your nervousness, because you're focusing on something else instead of screwing up in front of the audience, you know. You're like focusing your energy into one thing instead of being afraid of what might not or might happen. So number one, draft out your speech. It doesn't have to be an entire text. It can just be some points. You know, so just to keep you intact with what you're about to, you know, deliver up there. The second, I would say, is to get hydrated. It's very, very important for you to get hydrated, because this is a problem many of us face even to this day, is that in the middle of our speech, we tend to, you know, just lose our breath for a while, or we speak too fast, or our mouths get dry, so on and so forth. So before your speech, get hydrated, but not too hydrated, or else you're going to get like wobbly on stage. You don't want that, right? So, you know, 1 glass of water would do the trick, but don't drink it in one gulp, because that would, you know, intensify the anxiety you're going to have later. Just like drink it slowly, and have a mantra to yourself. Like what I do before I step up on stage, or whenever I'm about to speak or present something to people, I chant my favorite quote, which is "Fortune favors the bold." So I just really love that quote. It tells me to, you know, just live up to my name, because my name, Nur Sarhanis, basically means bravery, and I think my arwah father would really want me to live up to my name. So, you know, I'm just like, you know, you have to be brave, you have to be brave. That's what your parents named you after. So, you know, convincing yourself, in talking to yourself, that self prep that you do to yourself is also very important. And what I learned is that talking to yourself in front of the mirror actually helps a lot, you know, because really what many artists are currently, celebrities I would say, are pushing forth, the self-love agenda. You know, you see BTS, the Koreans, doing this. You see lots of American pop stars doing this as well. It's very important. Self-love is very important. But if you are still on the journey to self-love, what you can do is self-appreciate. So look into the mirror and appreciate yourself. You know, the minute you appreciate yourself, you will, you know, be able to convince yourself, give yourself a pat in the back and be like, you got this, you know? And what I would like to do as well, that's the technicality part, okay? That's before you get up on stage. But the minute you're on stage and you're still nervous, what I would do is, I would make eye contact and I would smile. I think these two things are very, very important. It will teach you, because if you notice, smiling is actually contagious, you know? I notice that whenever I get up on stage and I make eye contact with someone, I smile at them, they will smile in return. Even if they're not smiling, they'll be like, oh, you know, they'll be like shook. So, oh, okay. They just smiled at me. So you having that engagement with your audience will make them feel closer to you, okay? And you wouldn't feel too, you know, too threatened by them. You wouldn't feel like you're disappointing them. Instead, you just feel at home, at peace with them. Like, we're all here to educate ourselves. So, and also you have to realize that although you're the one speaking, you're not the only one who's giving out the lesson. You being up there and being in front of a crowd, of an audience, you're actually learning from those people as well. You will notice that in your crowd, there are young people, old people, and they all have different styles. And if you are an observant person, you will be able to learn of the many, many types of individuals out there. So this helps you to recognize the audience you have. For example, if you notice you're in a room of old people who all have notebooks, you will understand that you need to speak slowly and you need to speak in point form so that they are able to write it down. You know, so you being able to recognize who your audience is and being able to establish an engagement with them actually helps you to, you know, not be so nervous because you feel as though you belong there. You know who you're talking to. So yeah, that's the technicality part of it. But smiling is very important. I feel like when you smile, even if you're nervous, they won't know that because you're up there smiling. So they're like, oh, they're having a good time. I should be having a good time too. So that's very important whenever you're trying to establish engagement with your audience. But aside from the technicality part, when it comes to you preparing yourself, which is the more important part, I would say this is the intention, the niyat part again, is that you have to understand, number one, being able to speak and having a voice that is heard by many is something you cannot take for granted. You have to hold on to that opportunity and you have to hold on to it tightly. You know, you have to do your best in whatever it is that you're thrown into. Just give it your best, you know? And secondly, you also have to understand that everyone there, nobody is doubting you. Nobody is going to be like, oh yeah, I'm waiting for them to mess up. They're going to mess up soon. You're the only one doing that to yourself. Those people are there to hear something good. So give them something good to listen to, you know? You're there not only for yourself but for those people as well, those people who sacrifice their time to listen to what you have to say, you know. So it's really, really important. And you as a person, as a human, you have to understand we all have different lessons that we want to bring forth and shine into light. So the people who are there, many of them might not even share the same passion, the same heart, the same interest as you. So you being able to stand up there and share and shed a light towards the issue you're touching on is something that's so sacred. You know, the act of it is amazing. In being able to do that isn't something that you should fear. It's something that you should welcome. So you have to be prepared for that part. You know, you have to tell yourself, why am I being scared? Why am I being nervous? Okay, they're not going to attack me for being up there. No one has apples being prepared to throw at you. You're the only one expecting those things. So if those people are treating you kindly, why can't you be kinder to yourself? So that's the two part of the preparation to counter stage fright. So yeah.
I was mesmerized. I was like, oh yeah, give me some more.
20 years of living, I tak pernah like terfikir pasal benda tu.
Yeah, like okay, like actually what you've told us, like okay, so like before we got into degree, we also we have the Center for Foundation Studies, and we have public speaking class.
Oh, okay.
You know what you're telling us is actually like what the class taught us, but only that you're going into deeper lah. Macam they just there are too many topics, right? So like macam I macam like nodding.
Oh wow.
Before this, where did you get this? Like, are they preparing a class? Ke you just figure it yourself?
I think it was something I learned myself, but it wasn't macam I did that myself. I think it was because of the people who surrounded me. I think being in such great company, I have the bestest of friends, the greatest of family members who are kind, who are compassionate, who are constantly reminding me to not take life for granted, things like that, you know. So me being around people who are as kind-hearted as them made me, you know, macam, man, this life is so beautiful and it means so much. So that's why it's important for you to try to find the beauty in everything. And I think for myself, I found the beauty in being able to speak very early on. Like, I was 13, I'm like, I want to speak. I want to speak. Because I feel like lots of us can speak, but what are we speaking for? You know, like, we know of a lot of historical figures that are very well with their speech. Okay, they know how to speak, they know how to convince and persuade, but are they talking about the right things, or were they inciting violence? So yeah, like when people talk about Hitler, etc. Okay, like for you to say he is a bad guy, sure, he's evil, okay, or whatever, but was he not smart when it comes to giving out a speech? He was extremely smart. If he could convince an entire like group that the Jews shouldn't be alive, that they're at fault, that they're sinful, then there has to be something about him that managed to convince those people of those things. So the fact that we have so many historical figures that we can relate them to mean things happening, why don't we have good ones as well? You know, so I feel like we need to create more and more and more of that.
So they were not like formal class, like official class.
Oh,
you
no.
were taking things from people.
Yeah.
It's actually good because you're making it simpler, and for people like macam us, like the other people yang nak speak out but they just couldn't because of these things lah. Okay, so yeah. Just now you were mentioning about macam why are you like macam kena ada self-love and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, but actually for me like okay, this is personal lah. Macam I often visualize myself macam I would fail. Like oh my god, I'm just gonna fail, and I couldn't control, and macam I'm just gonna let it be. Macam have you ever had that?
Yeah. Yeah, I think I would firstly I'd say you're not alone, but secondly I would say it's okay to feel those things, you know. I feel like in order for you to heal, you must first hurt, you know. So if you're going through that phase right now, first thing I would say is I'm really sorry. You don't deserve to feel like that. You're an amazing person. The second thing is it's a journey, you know. I wouldn't say I love myself. I would say I'm trying to love myself.
Yes.
There are still parts of my body and faults of mine that I have yet to forgive myself for. You know, these are the things that I don't show people. These are the things that I hide from the world because I'm still insecure about them. And I feel like it's the same for many of us. Okay? Like I am going through that myself. You're going through struggles of your own. We're all going through struggles of our own, right? But it doesn't make us any less of a person, any less of an amazing person who can achieve wonders. So for me, I think the biggest fault of mine was I put my self-worth with the amount of trophies I had, with how good my grades were, with how many followers I had, with how people thought of me. And I thought that was all so plain, so bland. What kind of life was I living? I wasn't living, you know? I was just there. I was just existing, which is not life at all. So I feel like even until today, I still care about how many likes I get on a picture. I still care about my weight, all of those things, you know. Sometimes I'm scared to speak in front of people because I'm scared of the way my mouth moves, or if I'm blinking too much, I'm not making enough eye contact. But that's the thing, you know. Even if you think someone is great and you think someone has the best self-confidence, you're just lying to yourselves, you know. But yeah, I think it's different for all of us, and the journey is different as well. You can never want to become like someone. You can, for me, you can visualize like, oh, I want to be like her. I want to be like AOC. I want to be like YB Nuriza. But the fact of the matter is, I don't actually want to be them. I don't want to change my name into them. I don't want to wear my tudung the way they do. You know, I don't want to speak the way they do. I just want to make it seem as though I'm comfortable with myself. And then I realized it wasn't them I wanted to be. I just wanted to be a better version of myself. But then that's the thing, you know, there is no such thing as the perfect version of yourself. But there is the version of yourself where you are kind and forgiving towards yourself. So that part is really, really important, and it's really hard for you to reach that point in life as well. You know, like trying to forgive yourself, I would say, is the first step for self-love to happen. You first have to forgive yourself for hating your body or hating the way you look. All of those things. Forgive yourselves for the hate that you have thrown upon yourself. The second thing is you try to see whether or not the things you are hating about yourself was something that you inflicted on yourself or something other people punya standards inflicted towards you. So like when I wanted to lose weight very badly a few years back, it was only because my friends were all skinny. They all had thigh gaps, you know. So I'm like, man, my thighs are too big and too wobbly, man, you know. But no one was trying to make me change me. I was the one who was punishing myself for those faults. So the first thing is just stop punishing yourself. You know, stop treating yourself like you're not good enough, you're not perfect, because those are all an illusion. The minute in which you stop punishing yourself and you start forgiving yourself is the start of a very long journey that has yet to come. So I would say just start now. Just start to forgive yourself and love yourself now, you know. You can constantly try to improve. There are things that I want to improve on myself. For example, how I speak to people, how I approach people. Sure, those things, you can improve that. You can try to improve on those things. But when it comes to things that are out of your control, you know, you have to forgive yourself for not being able to change the way you want to and stuff like that. Although you have the choice or you have the opportunity, but, you know, those things aren't faults. Those things aren't things to be ashamed of. They're just things. So start forgiving yourself and look in the mirror every day and say, I'm sorry, I will start to love you more. Because that's very, very important. I feel like we all invest time in trying to love other people, but we don't invest enough time in trying to love ourselves. So, you know, we have to try. No matter what, we have to try to just be happy with our own company. You know, I'm not the type who can settle with being alone in a room because I'm like scared. You know, I constantly have to be around people. But as of late, I've been trying to push myself. So maybe I cannot be inside a room alone and do my own thing. So what I try to do is I just go to shops by myself, watch a movie by myself, get bubble tea by myself, those things. So one thing at a time. Every day, set a goal for yourself. Okay, today I'm going to post a selfie, and I'm not going to care about how that selfie looks like. I'm not going to care about how many people comments and likes my selfie. I'm just going to post a selfie. And the next day, I don't know, try on different styles of shawl, the kinds that you were too afraid to try on because you rasa it's going to make you look fat. You know, just like, just do it, you know? If you think that yellow is a nice color but you don't think it looks good on your skin, screw it, just wear yellow. Go ahead. Treat yourself to those things, you know? Yeah.
No, actually, it kind of like, I was about to tear up just now.
Oh no,
but I was like looking around. Oh my god, because it is too relatable. Like I can feel it because macam, like I've been like struggling with these things. So when I listen to someone who has the same feelings, macam before this I was thinking like, oh, I'm alone. I feel this way macam sorang je. No one has this kind of feeling. But when it actually come up from you, so it's like, oh my god, okay, macam okay, sama. Oh, so macam looking around. We were talking about communication skills, by the way, but this is important too.
Yeah, this is vital too.
Yeah, because I always imagine myself like standing on the stage, like, oh, what if I fall? What if I mess up? What if I just, oh my god, speed ke apa ke macam? Oh my god, okay. Tapi actually kita kena macam self-love is actually important, but it is so hard to do that.
It's hard.
Okay, we're gonna take a break because, oh my god, like, okay, Sarrah needs a break too. Okay, so stay tuned to Iiumfm with Teo Talk.
Welcome back to Teo Talk. Yeah, with DJ MAI
And DJ AMNA.
Okay.
And Sarrah.
And my Sarrah. So we have another Sarrah here, which is
Sarrah Salihan.
Sarrah Salihan. I would say a great role model of macam teens. So macam and I also saw your video yang kat Sri Putri kot, you were like the juniors were like crowding you macam
yeah, kat
oh my god, okay, now I know the feeling macam fangirling. Okay, so tadi kita talk a lot about communication skills, like investing your time in your speech, and then also macam the tips to speak on the stage. Macam you kena draft your speech and also be hydrated. So as we all dengar lah kan, macam Sarrah has a really good English proficiency and fluency. So nak tanya lah, is it important for for a person to have dia punya English punya proficiency or how?
Okay, for me, I think it's important for you to be articulate in whatever language you're speaking. But yes, having or being able to speak in English is very, very important, especially in this day and age, because being bilingual can really take you places, you know. You have to, as a Malaysian, I feel it's important for you to know your mother tongue as well as English. And then once you dah master those two languages, then feel free to explore all the other languages in Malaysia, because that's
beauty of this country as well. There's so many languages, you know. So back in school, I was lucky enough to be able to learn French as well as a little of Korean. So, you know, I feel like when you learn a language, you get really close to the culture, which is really important. And also because I feel like, because not all of us have the chance to travel all the time and see places, you know. But when you learn a person's language, you learn what makes it's so special about their culture, because language and culture, they're very close to one another. But when it comes to English, I would say this is the language. You know how people say Mandarin is the language for business?
Yeah.
I would say English is language for connection. It's very important for you to understand English, for you to learn of English, because no matter where you go, you will still, use English. Yeah, it's true. And for myself, I grew up using English more than BM, hence why my English is a little better than my Malay. I would have to say that. But it's not an excuse for me to feel like I'm better than other people. Instead, I should want to improve on my BM now, because it's important for you to have a balance of both worlds. And when it comes to being able to speak English, it's not about being able to deliver a 7-minute speech flawless. No, it's not about that. It's only about trying to speak English where you know the words that you're going to utter out later. And also being able to communicate with someone using English as a language of communication. That's the important part of, learning English. It's not to make you sound rich or to make you sound cool. No, that's not the thing. It's only to make sure that you are able to connect with various parts of the world, instead of just people here in your country, people back in your kampong, stuff like that, So, learning English is important, but it's also important to understand that not everybody is fluent in English, or proficient in English. So when someone is trying and they make mistakes here and there, it's not something to be laughed at. It's something that we should try to fix together. It's a learning process for all of us. So that's the thing about learning English too. I feel like most of the English speakers that we know of, they're very much, I would have to say this as well, I feel like most of the English speaking individuals that I know online or offline, they do present this cockiness in their speech, stuff like that. They seem very sombong or arrogant, as we would call it. But for me, I think that's not a language problem. That's just a self problem. So if you think that there are people who are going to underestimate you when you're about to speak English, note that there is an entire community that is also trying and is also celebrating your efforts in trying to speak English. So just do it, Yeah.
Wait, but
So, speaking of communication skill, is just not only restricted to public speaking. But what about the term that says communication is the key? So is really the communication the key?
For interaction, is it? Oh, communication.
macam interpersonal
Yeah, I would say so. Having communication skills isn't only going to, make you sound smart or sound well prepared for your speech, whatnot. It actually makes you sound human. It actually allows you to express your emotion, express your thoughts better. Because I feel like I think this is very visible in social media. People are constantly fighting all the time. And they're constantly mad at each other, which I don't understand why. I get that we all have our own opinions, but how do we deliver our opinions? What are we talking about? Because when we're talking about an issue, for example, Rohingya, recently on Facebook, people were fighting about Rohingya and saying they don't belong here, stuff like that. And the way in which those opinions were passed through was very vicious, very mean, very offensive, So I get that we all have opinions, and the people who were trying to correct them, people who were saying things like, no, you shouldn't be like that. Those are our Muslim brothers and sisters. You shouldn't attack them. You shouldn't be so racist and xenophobic. And the way in which you deliver that opinion of yours is still very offensive. You're still calling those people stupid. You're calling them uneducated. You're calling them heartless and things like that. And these people will retaliate back in return. And even though I have to say, I do believe that, those people are a little heartless to say those things. But if you want to change the world, you also have to change the people who are heartless. So the way in which you engage with them is very, very important. So you can be a good speaker, but how well do you communicate? I feel like when you brush up on your communication skills, you learn how to deliver ideas in a way where it's just ideas. I'm just stating out my opinions. I'm not attacking you. I'm just saying you should have a heart. You should be kinder to these people. These are our Muslim brothers and sisters. Instead of calling them stupid, uneducated, no heart, Malay tak guna, stuff like that. So although those people are mean, why do we have to be mean in return? What I learned from a very nice Uber driver back when Uber still existed. Dia cakap sini tau, dia cakap ada banyak sangat orang jahat dalam dunia ni, kenapa kita kena jahat sekali? So I feel like that's true. That's super true. Yes, there's like, you cannot fight fire with fire. That will create a bigger fire. What you have to do in return is be water and put out that fire. It's so easy, okay? And brushing up on your communication skills helps you to do this. Helps you to engage with people who are not just your friends, your family, but strangers who have different opinions from you. Because whether we realize it or not, the people who have different opinions with us, they might be our co-workers later on in the future. Or if you're planning to become a leader, those are the people that you will have to lead. So how exactly do you approach these people and bring about change at the same time? I get that we all want a kinder world, a world where we're all nicer, stuff like that. But how can we propagate a nicer world when we're not as nice as we want the world to be? So whenever we come across people who are vicious and mean, we have to first understand that, sure, they're not educated enough. It means they don't have the same experience as you. They were raised a different way. So that's not, although it's wrong for them to be like so, it's not completely their fault for being as such. And what you're trying to do now is to correct them. So if you're trying to correct them, why punish them? So just try to educate slowly and you will someday get there. Even if you don't get there, at least the people who are listening to you speak, or the people who are reading your comments in return, they'll be very inspired by it. They'll be like, oh yeah, why do I have to fight fire with fire? True. I don't have to be mean in return. You don't have to stoop so low to their level. No, you have to still have your class. You still have to be someone, the class with sass thing. I really like that phrase. So yeah, that you always have to keep in mind whenever you're communicating with individuals. So yeah, communication is important, you guys.
So moving to ideas pula kan. So what other, apart from listening to TED Talks and podcasts ke apa ke, what are the activities that actually are sharpening your skills to find ideas?
Well, my trainer, Amsha Aziz, I don't know if he's listening, but okay. So my debate trainer, Amsha Aziz, what he did when I was still, a high school debater, was that we'd have this thing called manner training. So a manner training is conducted, everyone prepares a Prime Minister speech, but when you're delivering your speech, when you make a mistake, you sit back down. So, it was traumatizing for me because I got up there, I spoke for 10 seconds and he told me to stop and sit. So I'm like, what did I do wrong? But I feel like that was something that really pushed me to articulate myself better. Because whenever you're giving out a speech, no matter how smart your speech is, if nobody understands what you're trying to say, if you are unable to be clear about your speech, then it's a useless speech, The hard truth is that although debate is a clash of ideas, but if you aren't able to deliver those ideas clearly, then nobody is going to get those ideas, no matter how correct your idea is, if you would call it so. So it's very important for you to, be clear about your speech, not dread your time, stuff like that. So when you're still like a beginner in trying to speak out in front of people and stuff like that, you have to start small. So you just have to push yourself. For example, when I first started debate, all I wanted to do was make sure I completed a 7-minute speech because I only got to 3 minutes, and I'm like, what else can I say? So when you start small, you will build your way up. And that's very, very important because no house is built from the roof, Every house starts with a base. So for me, the first thing I improved on was my time management. And then afterwards, I improved on my structure, the structure of my speech. Opening line, my greetings, my principles, and then my points, and then my closing line, those things. So later on, I found out how to make levels of analysis and how to make my speech clearer. So starting small really goes a long way. So whenever you're starting, you cannot punish yourself for not being able to, give a killer speech that can make everyone wow and mesmerized. No, don't punish yourself like that. You have to start small. Whatever you do in life, like if you're trying to become a sports person as well, you first have to learn how to dribble a ball before trying to make a 3-pointer, stuff like that when you're in basketball, right? So no matter what you are doing in life, take things slow because taking things slow goes a long way, and that's what you want, So, just starting small and building your way up is very, very important for you to find the things that you're about to improve on and what you need to, work on. Yeah.
So what are one of the greatest experiences you had?
My greatest
during-
experience. Okay, that would be last year during what I thought was my last tournament. Iiumfm Asians. It was a very highly competitive tournament, and I was super prepared for that tournament, or I thought. Like, I came and I'm like, man, we're gonna win the novice category. We're all gonna be in top 10. And then we didn't even break. You know, we weren't even the top 4 teams in that category. So that really broke me. Like, that broke me to a whole new level. I got in the car with my defeat and I started crying, and my mom was super worried because I don't take my losses very lightly. I that was something I managed to work on, which is forgive myself for losing, because I couldn't bear losing, you know, the idea of losing, not being top 10, not getting to semifinals, quarterfinals. So I'm like, man, you're a failure, you know? So I think from that loss, it really taught me why it's so important to have a team that is established not only through our own individual speeches, but as a team. Because in debates, you cannot win alone. You have to win as a team. So I thought my fault at that point in time was I focused too much on myself. Instead of trying to win this as a team, I was like, man, I have to establish a name for myself. I cannot, you know, leave high school without winning a tournament. You know, I was punishing myself throughout the entire tournament, and round after round, I'm like, kalah lagi. You know, like, I didn't do this good enough. I wasn't convincing enough. So I was like punishing myself here and there. And I'm like, right after the tournament ended and I went back to school, the first thing I did was run back to my teammates and I apologized. I apologized for being such a horrible person who was super selfish in that team. And then they were like, well, we were selfish too. And I'm like, okay, it was all our fault. So, you know, we all started crying. But I felt like that was such a wake-up call for me to just note that I don't live this life alone. You know, it's important for me to love myself, but it's also important to value the acts of selflessness. You know? So just, it's not that I shouldn't prioritize myself, but I should learn that when it comes to working together, it's a team. You know, it's a team effort. I cannot be so selfish that I want this win for myself and people are gonna know Sarrah Salihan alone. No, that cannot happen. I have to win as a team. So for my teammates during my Piala Perdana Menteri last year, Iman Afif, Hashatia, Nur Zafrina, also the person behind the scenes who wasn't part of the team, Zara Arif. Like, I valued these individuals so much. Yasmin Sophia as well. Like, these are the people who really woke me up, you know. And as captain for last year's debate team, I felt like it was sort of my responsibility, to also just like make them realize that I've made this mistake. I'm not going to make it again. I hope you don't do this too. You know? So being a leader is actually being very being very raw with yourself, to put out your wounds in the public, say you're sorry, apologize, having integrity. Those things are very, very important. And like, although that was that happened in high school, that show of integrity happened in high school, but I feel like you have to start small, as what I've said before. So even to this day, a lot of leaders that we see, they don't have that form of integrity. They still don't apologize for the mistakes that they make. So if we start now, we will end up being the leaders who apologize later. No matter what we become, whether you're prime minister, whether you're just a clerk in public bank, whether you're an owner of a bakery, no matter who you are, you will lead someone. Even if that someone is yourself, then you still have to be a good leader, you know? So, yeah. So I think that was the experience that really punched me in the face, but I was glad for the punch. Thanks, Iiumfm Asians. They wrecked me.
We were in the ocean of Sarrah Salihan punya words and thoughts. So we were like, we were just knowing, but it is actually beautiful to hear something like this from the leader of a debate team, kan? Okay, so debaters always speak so well. So you guys macam the way you guys talk, the way you guys speak macam full of confidence, and also you guys know what to say. However, for some people like us, does one really need to join a debate or is this macam some people macam memang itu talent, and some people memang
I feel like, I don't know, debate helped for sure. Debate helped, but I feel like if I didn't join debate, instead I joined things like public speaking or Model United Nations or Parliament Belia, you know, I would still be able to harvest those talents, but just in a different way, in a different context. But I was glad I garnered and build up this talent when I was in debate, because one thing that I think lots of us don't realize is many debaters sound confident, sound so articulate in their speech, isn't only because of the training they've went through, but it's also because of the community that they're in. Okay, so in the debate community, I feel like, as you said yourselves, everyone's like confident and so well in their speech. So you're constantly challenged. You're like, oh, I have to do better. Oh, I have to speak better. Oh, I have to defeat them.
It's actually a healthy competition between you guys. Macam,
true.
Oh, dia kena cakap macam ni, you pun kena macam
So, but then, what I really like about debate punya community is that only happens when you're in the debate room. That intense fighting, glaring, sir, sit down, sir, they made this mistake, sir, there are flaws. You know, all of those things only happen when you're inside that debate. The minute the debate ends and the adjudicator goes, okay, cross floor, shake hands, wait outside, deliberate.
I see.
The minute you step out of that room, everyone's like, whoa, good debate, that was so good. You know, everything becomes super friendly. And like, as someone who first started out in debate, I was a nobody. I didn't know anyone there. I only knew my teammates, but it was so refreshing to, you know, start out debate. I was going against a very strong team from UiTM, and like when we got killed in that debate room, I was so bad. They gave perfect 7-minute speeches, and I was there with my 3-minute speech, and they heke lagi. So, you know, stepping out, I was like super scared of them. But then they were like, "How old are you guys? You guys were so good in there." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm 13. Oh my God, 13! You're so good." You know, I felt so empowered. I felt like I belonged there. So I feel like when it comes to trying to bring out the best of yourself, it's not just about the talent you have or how much work you invest into that activity, but it's also about the community that brings you up. So for any of my achievements, or even being able to sit in front of two amazing women in front of me right now, is like are like the contributions of the community that has taught me and made me feel like I belong. So wherever you are in life, you have to understand you can only succeed if you are with the, you know, community that brings you up. Okay, and I feel like in debate, no one is just bringing themselves up. It's constantly a group effort. Everyone's like, you know, just so empowering. We all say hi to each other, follow each other on Instagram, those things. You just feel so at home. And like, coming from a girls' school that was all female, all Malay, all Islam, it was refreshing to be within a new community, you know? So it wasn't like I was with extra liberal people, as what many people would suggest. No, it's just being able to experience life with different layers of society is extremely important. And I feel like this is the thing that can really get you through life. And no matter what you do, you have to understand that the community you have isn't the only community that exists. So being able to be put out there and experience these people, be friend with them, understand their experiences, their trainings, I was completely mesmerized, and I'm like, yeah, I belong here. So you don't necessarily have to join debate for you to become confident and well.
Just find the right community.
That's it. So yeah.
Okay, so again, this is this is because we have the opportunity. So it's a bad thing if I didn't ask. But like me myself, I find it very hard to like say things in a structured way, because I always find myself all over the place. Macam, oh, I want to ask this, but at the same time, macam, it's so hard to get there. So macam,
when it comes to structure, speech structure, well, this is a problem that I still face to this day, in all honesty. But I would say it all lies within the power of visualizing. You know, one thing that I learned, like the lesson that I would teach my debate, because I trained for debate for a little, the first lesson I taught them was listen to learn. You know, so whenever I'm listening to speeches, I'm not only listening to how well they deliver their speech, but I'm also listening to the build-up of that speech. You know, I feel like a speech is just like a song. There's the beginning, a middle, and an end. And along the middle, there is the suspense. There's the constant build-up. You know, every single one of those things happening. So I feel like listening to other people, like good people, like well articulated, good speakers speaking, you are able to see the build-up of their speech. And listening to the build-up of their speech, you will be able to, subconsciously apply that to your own speech as well, without you actually noticing it. Because a speech always starts with first an introduction, there's the definition, and then follows by it will be followed by some anecdotes and stories, and then there will be the punchline where, okay, from that story, what did we learn? Okay, so like from that story, we learned this, and from this, what do we need to improve on? And once you learn what you need to improve on, you get to go to the conclusions and stuff like that. So the way in which your speech goes should be like a heartbeat. There has to be the ups and downs, the beginning, middle, and end. Okay, so we all have ideas, I believe. It's just trying to make sure that idea stays intact, which is the importance of drafting out my speech as well. In debates, I would have one paper I call the chonting paper. I will put all of my ideas in there, whatever I'm thinking. When I'm thinking of, okay, green, blue, whatever that crosses my mind, I will put on that paper first. And then comes my actual prep papers, where I will try to susun. I will try to navigate through the ideas I have in my head and try to, craft them into place. So it's very important for you to start out with definitions, make sure people understand the topic at hand, and then afterwards build it up to things that they can relate to. So this is anecdotes and stories, examples, jokes, sad stories, whatever you have. Make people feel something. And once they have felt something, relate it to what you are trying to teach them, and then draw your conclusion. It's always like that. That's the build-up of a speech or an argument, basically. So, draft out your speech. It really helps you. And listening to learn is also a very important tactic or tip that I really want everyone to start doing, Like, we spend a lot of our times listening to TV shows or songs, stuff like that. We have to try to dedicate ourselves some time to listen to podcasts or debates or TED Talks or TED Ed or whatever educational videos, because they really help you to articulate your daily speech as well, which is basically the training for actual speeches. So
So we have heard a lot of things and tips from Sarrah Salihan.
A lot. When I mean a lot, it's a lot.
Unfortunately, we have to end this session.
That's too sad.
If any of you guys are interested to know more about Sarrah, maybe Sarrah can promote yourself.
Oh yeah, okay, sure. So I do a lot of things. One, I recently published a book titled Sunflowers from Sarrah. They will be in MPH next week. MPH all across Malaysia. Get ready to go to MPH and buy the book. There's a lot of the things that I talked about. I infused most of it inside my book as well. So if you thought what I talked about was interesting, you will find my book interesting as well. So go buy my book. And then you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter as well. My Twitter, I'm very vocal on my Twitter. So Sarrah, SARRAHSLHN. That's my Twitter account. My Instagram is SARRAH.Salihan, Sarrah.Salihan. Also, I'm part of an organization called Dear Her, which is just as educational as what I mentioned just now. And we focus a lot about empowering women, stuff like that. So go follow them as well. Which is basically following me too, so And also I have a YouTube channel. I just did a collaboration with the Body Shop Malaysia. We tackled the taboo surrounding period in Malaysia. We focused on period positivity. So if you're interested, then go give it a watch, subscribe. You know the drill, right?
Yeah.
So, that's all.
Okay.
That's okay. Thank you so much, Sarrah, for coming and
for having me.
For giving us a lot, fruitful information and stuff. And because this is actually new too, because none of our guests, they are on a different field. So this is actually one of the important things juga to focus on, because she's actually focusing on women and ending the stigma of everything lah kan, and empowering women. So thank you so much. All right. Okay, that's all from us, everyone. So stay tuned to Iiumfm. Talk. Kita akan on air juga on Friday and also next week Tuesday macam biasa. Alright, bye. Goodbye. Assalamualaikum and good evening.